Caitlin Clark visibly upset with the referee, screaming on the referee, but gets no technical foul.
So as you can see, Caitlin's going back and forth with this referee number 39. And then he says something where she actually has to be held back. She gets so upset that she has to be held back by one of her coaches.
Watch this. She walks up. This is just rude. Grow up. Come here, calling the referee over like a mother about to scold their child. Unbelievable.
No referee would let a player away with screaming at them like that. The referee 100% said something completely out of pocket.
And now you have a tweet that goes out from Caitlin Clark's brother that says, make no mistake, this is on the reffing. And this is right after she seemingly got injured again.
All the referees do in these scenarios is make the game bet down.
Caitlin Clark recently advised a WNBA referee to develop up and vowed to summon the league to him, but inexplicably left without a technical error. That isn't typical. When a participant escapes their coaches, grasp, marches back to a representative and begins shouting, "Grow up, that's just rude. Come on in." They are evicted. However, Mike Price, the referee, simply stood there and regarded it as a youngster being reprimanded, which explains everything he said to you. To become the most famous person in women's, she goes utterly crazy when playing basketball.
You know what that told me? That told me whatever that referee said was a big no-no. Whatever that referee said, as soon as it left his mouth, he said, damn, I definitely should not have said that. Nah, I crossed the line. Because you don't get screamed on by a player like that. You don't get shown up on the court by a player like that and not call a technical foul unless you are in the wrong.
The entire incident collapsed during the third quarter of the matchup on Tuesday night between the Indiana, Connecticut Sun versus Fever at TD Garden, Boston. Referees were going over if the ball left the field of play, the Sun or the Fever following a missing shot. Easy call, regular review, nothing contentious. However, during that dead time, something took place in between Price and Clark, who became normal dialogue into a full-blown eruption. Price and Clark were discussing the call when he reportedly made a statement that went beyond any professional boundaries. Actions. You could see the precise moment it took place. Clark left gently, talking about the play till you lose it all. It in under 2 seconds.
And as soon as the ref says that, he's walking away, and she loses it. She's absolutely losing it.
Caitlin Clark had an interaction with the referee, and we still don't know what this referee actually said.
If the ref said something crazy to Caitlin, and then Caitlin got teed up, immediately, he's probably like, immediately it's going to be rescinded. She says, I'll be calling, presumably the league, to report whatever was said.
Whatever Price stated struck her as if to strike her face. Additionally, the response was swift and angry. And, to be honest, when a referee crosses such a line with the league's brightest star, you're left wondering how this issue truly extends. Helper. Coach Brian January observed what was happened and hurried to drag Clark away from the circumstance. However, Clark refused to accept it. She escaped from January's hold as though she were fleeing a restraining grasp and immediately marched away, pointing her finger at Price and giving it to him.
But look at this, ready? We have a coach pulling her back to the huddle. Instead of being instead of actually talking to her, hey, Caitlin, I got this, put her to the huddle and step in for her and talk. No, this coach is just more concerned about playing along, playing politics. Let me just pull her back to the huddle.
That is simply impolite. Adult up. Come on over here. Come on over here. Incredibly so. I will be accusing you in front of the league. Clark actually called a grown dude over like he was a mischievous youngster who required a pause. The statements weren't made by a player upset by a poor call. They were the remarks of an individual who had just been treated with the worst disdain. The most revealing aspect of the whole situation is what did not follow. Price listened to all that was said, without grabbing his whistle, as, all of a sudden, his hands became immobile. And when a player plays professional basketball, shouts such a thing at an official, it's an automatic technical violation. When they, separate from coaches to carry on with the debate, which frequently results in ejection. However, Price realized how severely he had messed up. Summoning a technician would just increase his worsening circumstances.
Clearly upset with how this game has been going, how this game has been officiated. And then this referee doesn't call a technical foul on Caitlin Clark. And that makes me believe that whatever he said was clearly out of bounds, clearly uncalled for, and a big fat no-no.
Depending on what the ref said, I think she has every right to lose it at a ref this year. I think she has absolutely every right to lose it at least one ref this year.
Consider the implications of that. A referee gave himself permission to be embarrassed on national TV, instead of making his error worse with a technical error. Price recognized that if, after whatever he struck Clark with a tech, he has stated that it would cause an inquiry that would put a stop to his career more quickly than you can say inappropriate behavior. His pride was swallowed, and he allowed the WNBA's biggest star to wear a dress, him in front of 19,000 admirers, such as she was his mother, who was displeased. This wasn't Clark losing her or acting diva rage over a near miss. This was a 23-year-old woman advocating for herself following a statement made by an official so unsuitable that even he was aware that he couldn't discipline her for her response. Price's failure to provide her with in essence, a technical foul is an acknowledgement that he went beyond what should never be done, be crossed. However, this referee dispute was only a portion of what evolved into one more terrifying game for Clark and the Fever.
There are multiple moments in this game that were so egregiously called, or there was no calls by the referees, and it's getting out of control at this point.
The refereeing yesterday, we see Tina Charles hit AB with a stiff forearm, literally turns around and hits her with a stiff forearm. We see Sophie Cunningham get elbowed in her neck, no call, saying that she flopped. The referees yesterday, they were in a league of their own in terms of incompetence.
Despite the fact that they won 85-77, Clark's physical condition was evident from the first tip. She had trouble all night and only managed 4 shots, 1 of 7 and 14 from the field, out of 3-point range. Her 14 points, 7 assists, and 8 rebounds were strong figures, yet you could observe with each miss, irritation grows. Shot. The Connecticut Sun entered the picture. Game with the WNBA's worst record at 3-19, but they performed as a cohesive one. Has everything to gain and nothing to lose. Demonstrate by going after the league's golden girl. They were violent, physical, and always pushing the boundaries of what the officials would permit. Tina Charles was flinging his forearms and elbows all night as if she were trying out for the UFC, including a clear jab at the face of Aaliyah Boston that somehow wasn't referred to as a flagrant foul.
And then you can see Tina Charles just kind of swims around and then throws Aaliyah Boston to the ground, like punches down on her. And she's on the ground, and that was not called a flagrant one. That was called literally a common foul.
It seems that contact is acceptable when you're sporting a jersey from the Connecticut Sun. The officials appeared intent on allowing both teams use contact to play, which is always like the squad with more physicality, because it seems like basketball has become an overnight contact sport. The state of Connecticut made the most of it, shoving Clark on, inspecting her by hand on each screen, possession, as well as ensuring that she felt each time she made contact with the ball. The officials permitted it to go on, establishing an atmosphere in which Clark felt as if she had to struggle to get each call, while her rivals were able to get away with everything except the use of real weapons. This pattern of irregular Clark has been plagued by officiating all season long, similar to an unhealthy partnership. She cannot get away. The referees called one game. Everything is tight, and they let the next game. Players that make contact get away with it. Gamers and instructors are always unaware of the version of the officiating team they will be using. Obtain, which prevents adjustment. Plan or get ready for how the game will be controlled. It's similar to playing, where the house is basketball roulette. Always prevails, and Clark consistently fails.
The Connecticut Sun, literally, they defended Caitlin one way the entire game, and the referees were biting their whistle. They were refusing to give up anything, and then in the fourth quarter, at the end of the game, they suddenly start calling everything, and that was a big factor in the game. Like, the referees were horrible.
There's been so many things, so many players calling out the referees, so many players calling out the physicality, so many players getting injured this season, from superstars to players on the bench, from season-ending injuries to rib injuries to concussions. There have been just so many things, and it doesn't get better.
Clark's physical punishment, night after night, begins to emerge. At the end of the fourth quarter, following passing to Clark, and Kelsey Mitchell abruptly seized her crotch region and grimaced, clearly in discomfort. The same accident that kept her out of commission for 5 before this season's games were obviously disturbing her once more, and this time it appeared worse than it had. Clark attempted to walk off the injury, but it was obvious. The anguish and annoyance expressed in writing across her face, as though she were reading a awful book. 39 seconds remain, and 9 points ahead of the Fever, she needed to leave the game. While as he approached the bench, the tears began to fall, flowing. This was more than simply the physical discomfort brought on by her groin injury. This was the weariness of the heart of addressing offensive remarks made by referees, continual physical interaction between adversaries, as well as the strain of carrying a whole league on her back while everyone else appears intent on crying her down.
Did you see last night Caitlin Clark holding her groin, digging her head in the stanchion in pain, tears coming to her eyes, all the emotion hitting her at once, whether it's mental exhaustion, frustration with another injury, feeling a pop in the groin, feeling something in the groin that you know isn't a good sign.
But right now on the bench, after looking like she is in some pain.
Observing Clark's breakdown on the bench broke the heart of anyone who recognizes the experiences she has had, has a working heart, and is in season. She's faced more criticism, more reprimands, and more physical discipline, more than any WNBA second-year player. Past. Each game offers something different. Difficulties, regardless of whether it's authorities uttering offensive remarks, opponents pursuing her with risky maneuvers, or the ongoing scrutiny that follows. Serving as the spokesperson for women's basketball, Clark could treat cancer at this stage, and someone would be upset with her. Method. Stephanie White, head coach, verified following the match that Clark felt a little object in her groin and would be assessed to ascertain the extent of the damage. The moment, the defense couldn't be worse. Coming to town is the champion New York Liberty. For the upcoming match, Clark's accessibility is currently under scrutiny, and the Fever must get ready for the potential taking against one of the top clubs in the league without their top player.
Kathy Engelbert doing nothing but talking about, oh, what if this player gets injured? What if this player gets injured? Well, now you have your wish, Kathy. Happy? She's injured. She's been injured all year. Not only is she injured, but now you got her breaking down on the court. Good job, Kathy. You really rocked it, sister.
She is a multi million-dollar, I could even argue a billion-dollar basketball player. And so she needs the top of the line people just making sure that she is good. You don't want to see an injury like this escalate into something where it turns into something that's actually torn and she is out for a whole year or more.
So it seems that the basketball gods harbor personal animosity for Indiana. This time of year, the damage to the groin is very worrisome, as it's the same location where Clark lost 5 games earlier in the season. Groin injuries are infamously challenging to recover from entirely, particularly when players attempt to come back too soon. The reality that, given that Clark was crying, this could be more somber than the group is allowing on, which can result in additional games being missed at a pivotal point in the season. What makes this circumstance even more, the injury's appearance is frustrating. To be non-cont, Clark did not get bumped or fouled on the play where she was injured. She just made a pass and experienced an awakening in her region of the groin. This implies that the harm was either a recurrence of her earlier issue or the outcome of making amends for further health problems brought on by the continuous discipline she receives while games. Her body is essentially collapsing, aside from all of the interaction. However, let's continue to act as though everything is all right. The incident involving Price and the referee is only the most recent illustration of how Clark is being given different treatment than other basketball players in the professional league, and not in a positive manner. Superstars who are men in the NBA and officials have had tense interactions constantly, but those discussions occur within the recognized parameters of regard for one another. What Price seems to said to Clark that those limits had been crossed in such a manner that even someone who's faced with pressure and derogatory remarks whole basketball career, the boldness of this individual to express his thoughts thus unsuitable that he was unable to even. It is definitely necessary for him to defend himself thereafter. Incredible. The reality that Clark, particularly threatening to contact the league office, demonstrates the gravity of this. It was an incident. Those are not made by players. Threats regarding regular disputes regarding phone calls. Those threats are made when officials have made a personal statement, unsuitable or entirely disrespectful and in violation of all norm for referee behavior. The cost. Choice to not issue a technical to Clark foul is basically an acknowledgement that he was aware that he was at fault and more likely should no longer be employed. Referees. Players shouldn't be allowed to yell at them without repercussions unless they comprehend that hiring a technician would simply increase their worsening circumstances. Price understood that everything he said was so unsuitable, then penalizing Clark for her response would set off an inquiry that might put his career in jeopardy more quickly than a Caitlin Clark three-point shooting. Well done, Mike, but
try holding your tongue the next time.
This sets a risky precedent for the way officials communicate with Clark. Moving forward, referees may feel that they are free to speak to her anything they desire. It opens the door without any repercussions for more improper conduct. The league office must look into this situation right away and provide a clear message that the verbal abuse of officials will not be able to accepted in any situation. The major issues with WNBA officiating are approaching a critical juncture where they are intentionally undermining the league's largest stars, like a business that maintains, dismissing their top workers. Clark shouldn't have to engage in conflict with referees in addition to her other responsibilities. Handling on the court, she's already enduring ongoing physical abuse from adversaries, close media scrutiny, and admirers, as well as the strain of carrying women's basketball reaching unprecedented levels, including inept referees in that mixture, is comparable to dousing a fire with gasoline and then displaying astonishment when everything fails. when authorities include unsuitable remarks and adding unprofessional conduct to the mixture. It establishes a setting where even the most mentally tough athletes are able to their breaking point. The emotional. The bench breakdown wasn't limited to her injury to her groin. It concerned the cumulative impact of handling, disrespect, and unprofessional conduct from those who are meant to be impartial game arbiters. But apparently, I completely missed that memo. At a juncture, the WNBA must decide whether to may deal with these officiating issues right away or observe there. The biggest celebrity is pushed away by inappropriate and inept conduct from their own workers. The threat posed by Clark. The league headquarters should be contacted as a reminder that they're present. The system is not working well for the players who make their products worth. Commissioner, the league office, and Kathy Engelbert.